So I want you to imagine a house. Okay. This house happens to be in a layout where there are almost 10 houses which look the same. Okay. From the outside, they look the same, the 10 houses. Now, my question to you is, does the house look the same on the inside? Will all the 10 houses look the same on the inside? Okay. Now, the living rooms might be positioned in the same place. The bathrooms might be positioned in the same place. The rooms, individual rooms, might be positioned in the same place. But now I have a question. Will the paint or the color of the walls inside the house be the same? It won't be. 10 different families are living in 10 different houses. The paints are going to be different. Okay. The next thing that's going to be different is the electricity distribution across each of the rooms. Now, some people might spend more time, some families might spend more time in the living room, some on an average. On an average, some might spend more in the bedroom. Maybe they need more sleep. Some might spend more time in the office room. Some might spend more time in the bathroom. Okay. It's not a crime. Okay. But the electricity distribution across every house is going to be different. Likewise, the electricity bill across, if you compare each of the houses, it's going to be different. They're not going to use the same amount of electricity like every other house does. So, what is my point? No house is the same. It might look similar on the outside, but on the inside, it is different. Okay. Now, that's exactly how the brain is. On the outside, we have these parts: frontal lobe, parietal lobe, temporal lobe, occipital lobe, cerebellum, and then you have the brainstem. All right, you have all these parts, but remember the brain activity that is shared across these lobes are completely different. From person to person, they are different. On the outside, we are all human beings. We all have brains. We all have these parts. But remember, the way the electricity is distributed or the usage is distributed across each of these brain components are different. Okay. When we study this distribution of energy across various parts of the brain, we understand the innate cognition of an individual versus the role that they're being assigned to. When I say a role, it might be a career based role, or it might be for me to understand what are my natural inclinations to which subjects, which careers might be more suitable for me based on the distribution of the workload that is happening across each of these lobes or compartments of the brain. So that is called as innate cognition. Now, most of the times, innate cognition is not revealed. Okay, innate cognition is not revealed by a CV or a resume or just by answering certain questions, or unfortunately, even through some psychometric tests. It does not happen. Why it does not happen? Because the test which is being conducted, or the user is taking this particular test, does not have the capability in order to measure or to understand or to mirror a protocol or a sequence of questionnaires which will help to reveal the innate cognition identity of the individual. You need to reverse that and you need to read that again. Okay, so so neither does a resume. See, most of the times, what happens is some children are very good at memorizing. They're just good with it. Some kids are not good with memorizing. So some kids understand very well, but they can't put it on paper, right? Some people don't understand that well, but they just memorize. So for kids, you cannot say just on the basis of marks if the brain activity is congruent or correlating to a particular career, or their interests are vibing. You cannot say that. We cannot say that just based on marks. Okay. Yes, we can answer based on some projects or some enthusiasm that they have taken initiative by themselves. Yes, that's a point that needs to be noted. But what helps is a psychometric test, a test which has the capability or questionnaires to find the answers. What is it trying to find? It is finding how is the power distribution across each of these lobes that are happening. And based on this, can I conclude and say that, listen, these subjects are most suitable for this individual. These careers are pertaining to the individual's brain activity. Okay. So, or the innate cognition is matching to these careers or subjects. Likewise for employees. Okay. Now, in employees as well, many of us get hired, even I have been an employee. Many of us get hired through our resumes, through interviews, these interview questions that we have trained ourselves to answer well. All right. That doesn't necessarily mean that in a sample set of 10 employees who have been hired almost at the same time, almost same age groups, will have the same performance metric at the end of a quarter or a year. That's not true. The performance metrics are different, right? So what is happening here? Okay, why? They were all good. They were all hired by the same manager, the HR manager. They cleared the technical round of interview. What is happening here? The same question we should ask the kids as well, or students in a college. 10 students, same classroom, same teacher, parents who love them, parents who care for them. There are various variables here. We are not diving into that. But coming back, kids' performances at the end of the year are different. What is the difference, or why is this difference happening? On an emotional context, it might be completely different, but on an innate cognition level, if we are able to find out, okay, why this is happening through a psychometric test, a test which is actually reflecting their brain activity pertaining to the subjects, correlating to the subjects that they're actually studying, and we can understand, wait, this is the reason why this person is not able to perform well in this subject. And we can actually help them develop. We can actually tell the employees, help them grow through the report. Okay. What can we tell them? Spend more time in the living room, or spend more time in the office room, or spend more time in the garden. Okay. That means let's activate different zones of your brain. How do we do that? Through simple activities. Through simple activities that even the report will be suggesting. That's exactly what I have developed. Hi, I am Teja Ralapalli. I am a music neuroscientist. I am an innate cognition specialist, not acquired cognition. Acquired cognition is the house that is there in the layout, and the house looks cool, like it looks like every other house. Innate cognition is about the brain wiring to see where the power distribution is maximum, where it is low, what color is the paint, what's the kind of furniture that is inside, what is the vibe of the house, everything. So to understand this, I have developed a test called as MTNP, Music Theory Based Neuro Profiling. This helps a student to understand what their natural inclinations are, how they are currently studying, and how that they need to study. Likewise, to an employee, how they are perceiving their role to their brain activity ratio. What is this ratio? Can we understand this to understand if they're actually a fit or not for this particular role? So, this test focuses upon mainly where exactly is your focus. By default, where is your focus? Next is, by default, what kind of patterns are you able to build between the elements that are presented in front of you? Now, when I say elements, what elements am I saying? You would have understood I said music neuroscientist and then innate cognition specialist. Let's actually connect all of them. 11th century, Arezzo di Guedo or Guedo di Arezzo, this gentleman made music as a written language. When I say written language, Every language in the world is both spoken and written. If it is not yet written, it eventually becomes written. Spoken and written. Okay. English as a language has 26 letters. It is spoken as well as written. The same message I can speak to you and you're listening with your ears, or I can write to you and you are I can write to you and you are reading with your eyes. Okay. So spoken, written, ears, eyes. All right. Music is a seven-lettered language which was not a written format of communication until Guido di Arezzo comes into the picture. Once Guido di Arezzo, sorry, comes into the picture, it becomes a four-line system where dots are placed to trained readers or singers or musicians, where they can understand the difference in the spatial representation of notes, where they can understand the difference and sing or hit those notes. Okay. Now, post 11th century, this system was used widely for the next 300 or so years, 300 or 400 years. Between 14th and 16th century, four or five very important people come into the picture and translate or transition or evolve this singular four-line system into a double five-line system, a pair of five-line system. One five line representing the higher frequency of music, the other representing the lower frequency of music. One is called as the treble clef. Given a point, it travels in the higher frequency of music. And the other is called as bass clef. Given a point, and it travels in the lower frequency of music. One is called as treble clef and bass clef. Okay. Five lines and five lines. And there are dots, which these five lines, these lines and these spaces are representing actual information or data or notes for a musician or a singer to look and understand and to play a particular key or to sing a particular note. We have been using that system. It is called as together this is called as the grand staff. This system has been used for the last 600 to 800 years, presumably. Okay, we are currently still using that system as well. So each time you see a sheet music in front of a piano or in an orchestra, you see people turning their pages. That's what they are reading. Okay. Now, if you were to take, okay, now what I'm going to do is instead of looking at the grand staff like this, I'm going to turn the grand staff vertical, make it vertical, and then you will see five lines and five lines. And I'm going to map these five lines with the five fingers of the human hand. And I'm going to map the lines and the spaces and the data that it represents to the five fingers of the human hand, right hand and left hand. The next step that I'm going to do will be interesting. I'm going to cross both my hands, okay, with the letters or the notes or the sounds mapped already to my hands. I'm going to cross my hands. When I cross my hands, I get a perfect sequence. You see from E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. For the non-musicians who are listening to this, in music, we start with a C, D, E, F, G. After G in English comes H. But if you connect the two tops of H, it becomes an A. Okay? An A, B, C. That's how it is in music. So I've given you a brief, and now you understand about the sequence, this seamless sequence that occurs only when you cross the hands and not when you keep the hands normally. So what is happening here? It is mimicking the contralateral control of the brain. What is the contralateral control of the brain? The right side or the right section of the brain is taking care of the left side of the body, and the left side of the brain is taking care of the right side of the body. It's an X, and it perfectly is mimicking that. So based on this, we conducted trials. We asked people to come and participate, and to check whether I'm able to understand their core, their core being, or in simple words, their innate cognition. How is their brain by default absorbing and adopting information? Once I recognize this, I'm able to understand why a child is not able to study well. Again, I repeat, I'm not talking about the emotional quotient of the child at the moment, only the mental capabilities and capacities. By this, we can severely avoid tagging children as ADHDs or suffering with attention deficiencies or other neurological disorders. Instead, we can help them to take this test and identify what their natural inclinations are. This is for kids. Excuse me. Also, when it comes to employees, when it comes to hiring, all that you need to do is take a test. Take a test to understand if you're most suitable for this role. And the ratio, you need to understand the role versus your brain activity or your innate cognition ratio is very vital for you to understand if you're suitable for this job or maybe for something else. Okay, this will help save tons of money for corporates, and it'll save tons of time for people who think or assume that they are fit for the right role, but they're actually needed for a different role altogether. For colleges, for students, for universities to understand why children or students are not able to perform well, we can use this test in order to gauge all that. And that's exactly what MTNP is all about. Music theory based neuroprofiling uses the grand stuff as visual stimuli. This visual stimuli, which by default is mimicking the contralateral control of the brain. Therefore, the question asked is correct to expect the correct answer. So we give space and time to so that you answer these questions. We give you music scores and we tell you to answer only visually, nothing musically. No musical answers, please. But visually, whatever you see, instead of telling me that a building is actually a ground plus 3 floors, we expect the answer to be a square, 4 squares stacked up against on each other. Simple. Okay, so visually you're explaining everything rather than musically, and based on the answers that you give, we are able to understand exactly what is your natural inclination, why are you performing the way you are, and how we can improve it. That's exactly what MTNP is. Thank you for staying with me throughout this video. I hope this is informative. The link is in the description below. You can also DM me if you are a company, if you're a corporate, if you're a school, you're a university, and you want to understand more about this product and you would like to implement it or license it, do connect with me. I'll be happy to take you through it. Till the time, cheers. Looking forward to hear from you.